Safety.
Speaking.
I call Mike Sabin.
Thank you, sir. I'm actually still quite confused as to whether the member's actually supporting the bill or not. Well, it may have been the first thing she said, Grant Robertson, but everything else she said after that was entirely critical, very negative, hardly forward-thinking, but what we have come to expect from the Labor Party. So I look very much forward to the member's contribution in the Select Committee process that follows. But, sir, this is a very, very important piece of legislation and is part of a much broader area of reform in the labour and industrial relations space. And I just want to acknowledge the leadership of the Minister, the Honourable Simon Bridges, for his work in this area, because it has been informed. It's amazing when David Cunliffe is away how much Trevor Mallard wants to play. I'm sure other members in this House have noticed that. Don't worry, Trevor, you haven't got too much longer to wait before he's out on his bike and you can regain your rightful place as the centre of obstruction in this Parliament. Sir, as I said, this is part of a larger... If the member wants to actually quieten down for a minute and listen to what this bill's about. It's an important piece of legislation, Mr Mallard. It's an important piece of legislation. Sir, it's part of a broader suite of reforms, and its genesis lies in the Independent Task Force report on workplace health and safety and, of course, the tragedy of the Pike River disaster. And the lessons that we are still learning from that, sir, and this bill will give effect to an entirely different regulatory regime and approach, and the relationship that must be well established in a workplace to ensure health and safety and productivity is achieved, the relationship between employees and employers, the government and the legislative platform upon which they operate, and the importance, I guess, sir, of reflecting that the dynamic nature of the New Zealand workplace and the way in which this has altered over time, and the fact that there are many who will operate in a manner which presents risks. There are many employers who have struggled in some ways, sir, with the challenges and the changes in the New Zealand workplace, and the need for the requisite messages, penalties and regime to be in place to set the platform upon which they must operate. So that the other side of the coin, there is the importance of the employee being engaged in health and safety in their workplace. It is not solely the responsibility of the employer or the government, but it is certainly an area in which, when all of the parties come to the table, I think we can expect a far greater outcomes in terms of safety and indeed in terms of productivity. There is a reciprocal relationship between the two. There can't be productivity without safety, and when safety is jeopardised, not only is the lives and health and safety of the individual compromised, but so ultimately will the productivity. So everyone wins, sir, when we get the balance right, when we set the appropriate framework, and this is what the bill is essentially looking to do, sir, is to marry together and learn from the lessons from the Royal Commission report, from the Task Force, Independent Task Force report on health and safety, and to ensure that the modern working environment and the needs to marry those who are participating in that working environment, be they employees or be they contractors, are meeting with employers and the government's expectation around health and safety. Sir, I think it's important to point out that the committee took a very collegial approach and learnt a lot in the Pike River legislation and the Pike River as a result of the Pike River tragedy. And I think it's going to be very important through this process that this committee gets to hear from stakeholders from right across the spectrum, sir, in terms of the role that this legislation will play in their workplaces moving forward. And I certainly want to encourage those stakeholders to come forward and make submissions and engage in this process. This is really a landmark piece of legislation while part of a broader reform. This really is the nuts and bolts, it's the glue that's going to bring it all together, sir. So can I just commend stakeholders out there to engage in the process. And while I talk with my colleague Darian Fenton, and we do jest, I know that this committee will work in a collegial fashion to ensure that the very best legislation is afforded to the New Zealand workplace, and I very much commend this bill to the House and thank the Minister for his work in it.
Speaker.
The Honourable Damien O'Connor.
Mr Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak on this, and to be fair, I haven't had the opportunity to study in detail what